Welcome to another edition of Restore the Floor with Evan Jenkins. It's Stoney here, and these are what they call the dog days of NBA summer, Piston summer. There's really not that much going on. Few items. I did see, Ev, that for some reason NBC is going to be a player in televising NBA games shortly.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I loved it. I mean,
bring back the theme.
John
Tesh.
Yeah, so good. But I mean, from my childhood, that's what the NBA was
Right.
the NBA on NBC.
It was Marv.
And I mean, I can go back. It was Doc Rivers. It was Magic Johnson.
Yes.
It was all of that. You can
Peter Vesey. He had great stuff.
I can go and envision the logo on the bottom right where they would put the score.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything. So for nostalgia reasons, I think it would be great. I don't know who their play-by-play guy would be. Would it be Tirico? I mean, he did basketball before for ESPN.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. That depends on a lot for me. Like, obviously, being in this business, I'm attracted to listening to the best people call games.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's the wrong person, it kind of hurts the game a little bit. Like, for instance, I'm a Michigan State fan. When certain guys that coached at the University of Indiana would call that game, it would make me not want to listen. And I'm talking about Dan Dockich.
I know. See, you know what's weird? I thought Dockich was really good at that, being an analyst. I know he pissed Spartan fans off a little bit, but I liked during timeouts he would go on the court and
that part was kind of cool.
Play, but he became almost a caricature of himself.
He started making things like personal against certain fan bases for no reason.
Oh yeah,
and it's weird.
Do you remember?
I remember everything. Izzo went after him. Like,
well, no, he was supposed. Remember, we promoted. He was supposed to be on the show the morning after the whole Michigan State fan conundrum.
Yeah,
and then we called him, or he texted me. He said ESPN won't let me come on, and then Tom and Milligan, our producer, got all pissed off. We encouraged people like to tweet him and things like that, and he went crazy.
Oh yeah, some people are loose hinges there on the Twitterverse or Xverse, whatever we want to call it these days. But I would love to see it. I mean, right now our national broadcasts are ABC, ESPN, and TNT, right?
Correct.
So to have something else, I would be game for it to see what they would do with it. I don't know how it would be any different other than just the nostalgia to hear that song, and they better get that damn song. But I thought, like, didn't CBS get it?
Fox uses it for their college games.
So I wonder if they bought the rights or if this is one of those things where many people can buy the rights. I don't know how that works, but it'll be cool. I'd watch.
Yeah.
I mean,
I remember the old CBS theme years ago.
Well,
you get the best of basketball when you watch the NBA.
Well, and growing up too, I loved the show NBA Inside Stuff, which was on NBC early in the morning with the Mater
Of course you would, because it was Michael Suckup.
Oh yeah, big time. Well, he was a big fan of Michael. I don't know if you knew this; they were friends. But he would always do my main man, like whoever it was. It would be. I remember
it was a big deal when Grant Hill was on for the first time.
I remember the intro where they had Shaq like sliding on his belly
Who
save that
ball.
Was
the woman Olympic? Was
Summer Sanders?
Yes,
because she did Nickelodeon stuff too,
yes.
So it was like right in my wheelhouse in the early '90s.
So that's a little NBA news. Actually, the biggest NBA news is the contract of Jalen Brown getting the Supermax, and he qualified for the Supermax because he was a second-team NBA All-Star
or All-NBA. Yes.
So he gets a 5-year contract worth over $300 million, which is, do the math, $60 million a year, the highest paid NBA player ever, and it will last one season until his teammate surpasses him next year, you assume, because Jason Tatum is, I think, better than Jalen Brown, and as the cap goes up, the Supermaxes will go up.
I agree with that. There's a lot of Supermaxes that are going to get paid out in 24. I think Giannis, I think Jokic is going to be up for it. And like those two players, I think are well deserving of it because they make that team. I don't know if Jalen Brown is necessarily worth the $304 million to the Boston Celtics, but at the same time, you couldn't lose him because he is very important part to that team.
Okay, so where would you, if you were ranking NBA players, he's obviously not a top 10 player.
According to the NBA, he is. Second
But
team All-NBA.
But I'm asking you.
I don't
to me, maybe top 15, and to me, that's stretching it.
He is
I like him a lot. Believe me. Earlier we were sitting there, well, he doesn't like Boston allegedly and all this stuff. Maybe if the Pistons could get Adoko as his coach here, there could be a sign and trade. He'd be great here, but obviously that didn't happen.
He's not a game changer to me, and that would be a top 15, top 10 guy.
Right.
So he's probably not. Now, having said that, would he be instantly the best player on the Pistons and fans would be going crazy if he was here? Yes. Absolutely. But that's based on the product we've seen over the last 5 years.
He's had some great playoff moments, but he's had some games where he disappeared completely.
I just
shrank.
But that's where we're at in professional sports with the amount of money that these leagues are making, these teams are making. We talk about NBC. I'm sure that will be a big contract for the NBA, which will make the price go up. But is the NBA getting in weird territory where you're going to pay these fringe superstars this kind of money? Now, like Michael Jordan, his last year with the Bulls, he made famously was known $30 million. And people were like, oh my God, but he was worth every last penny.
Right.
Jalen Brown's getting paid 2 times more than that. And I understand.
Well,
times are different.
Times are different. The caps are different. Because I remember when Magic signed that contract.
Oh, yeah.
It was to get $1 million a year.
It was wild.
It was, oh my God, how can you pay a basketball player? Look, the cap goes up so that as long as the percentage of your cap doesn't get completely distorted, I don't think it's a big deal. But once if you have a certain amount of your cap percentage going to 1 or 2 players, then you might have problems unless your owner, and I'm not that familiar with the Celtics owner as other people are, unless he's sitting there, I don't give a crap. We want to win a title. We're the Boston Celtics. I'll pay whatever luxury tax there is.
And that very well might be, but you're going to get into the problem like the Lakers have, right? Where you're going to have these 3 dudes that are going to take up all your money, and then you're trying to fill it with young players and vets that necessarily don't mesh with what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you go down a slippery slope, in my opinion. I mean, go look at what the Miami Heat did. I know that's not normal for NBA teams, but they put together a great team around one superstar.
Right.
I think that is more or less the way to build a team in today's NBA than it is getting 3 players that are going to be completely maxed out your cap. I mean, the teams with your Philadelphia 76ers are a prime example of that. Yes, we can pay these superstar players, but at the end of the day, can they get us over the hump? I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of which, since you brought them up, what do they do about James Harden? I mean, people talk about, by the way, Daryl Morey as being this great freaking general manager. What has he ever really done? That's number one. Number two, I mean, Harden's been tweeting these pictures of him with cheeseburgers.
Oh,
and
yeah.
things
He's just kind of trolling the team, the fan base. And it's.
When is somebody going to say, you know what? We just don't. And the Sixers will get stuck with them. When are teams going to say, you know what? He was a problem in Houston. He was a problem in Brooklyn. He's been a problem in Philly. I mean, him and Kyrie should just form their own team and just be everybody's problems.
Those are 2 people that hope that the Saudis come in and give them Mbappe money because
that's a great.
It's just it becomes to a point to where when will a team owner, a GM, a coach all come together and say we can't win with this guy,
right?
And some GMs and owners have a very hard time swallowing their pride and saying, I was wrong.
Correct.
And I feel like that's a big problem.
And coaches always think that they can be the guy to change the guy.
Yeah, but at a certain point, you are what you are, right?
Exactly.
I mean, and he isn't what he was.
No.
This is a guy that used to be able to elevate, be able to take it to the rack, no problem. He was one of the most fun players to watch. He was a guy, with the Rockets when he went there.
He was still too much.
Sure, he was all to himself, but he was fun to watch as a basketball player. And when he went to the Rockets, his actual first game was against the Pistons at the Palace, and he scored 40 points. It was so fun to watch, but he's not that dude anymore.
No, he's not.
And you wonder, does paying a player this much money kill humility? And that's what I wonder,
It
because
depends on the person. Some it probably does, and some it doesn't.
well, and it's funny because I was watching a video. Steph Curry was on this YouTube show called Hot Ones, where they eat spicy wings. He talks with this guy, and he's telling this story about Kobe Bryant and playing against him in a preseason game, right? So these are the reason I'm bringing this up, because Steph Curry and Kobe both seemed humble in that regard, to where, yes, basketball was A1, where Kobe was busting his ass in a preseason game, like killing him up and down the floor. And Steph, he said he pulled up, made a three, and Kobe was like, wow, like hit him on the butt afterwards. And Steph was like, I couldn't show him how excited I was being around him. Then he brought up another example where his rookie year, he did like a pump fake and laid it off the glass. And then they showed Kobe, and Kobe goes, that kid is nice. And he goes, yet again. But that's the humility I'm talking about. Like Steph Curry, you know what you're getting. This kid's going to bust his ass and do the best for the team. Kobe Bryant, you knew what you were getting out of him. And yes, that takes a certain person to want to be the first one in the gym and the last one out, right? But at some point, if you pay somebody like to be that player, you got to get that out of him. And I don't know if James Harden is that guy. I think James Harden is a guy that's skating by on his talent. And to me, he seems more like a Prince Fielder than he does a Kobe Bryant. What I mean by that, he knows he's very good at the game. He understands it's a job and he's getting paid for it. But is winning the top dog thing for him? I don't believe it is.
No, I totally agree with you. Locally, the Pistons signed one of their guys that they had from the summer league.
Traded for.
Oh, that's right.
They traded.
That's right. The Crews made a big trade
with Orlando's. Yes. I don't even know what their team name is.
Yes. Yes. Xavier Simpson is now a member of the Motor City Crews.
The Skyhooks coming into Detroit, baby.
So here's the question. We would encourage it more if he played on a different team, but I think it would be hysterical if Spartan fans showed up wearing Jeff Jackson jerseys.
I didn't even think about that, because you asked me like about this. I said maybe you'll get some fans down there to watch those games, right? And you're like, will they? I'm like, well, Michigan fan. I mean, Xavier Simpson did good things for them while he was there.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'll always remember, he'll always be connected to like Cassius Winston for me, because those were the guys that dueled it out. He's made it way further with his professional basketball career than I would have predicted. I thought he would have gone overseas, and God bless him for sticking with it, trying to make it here in the United States with the NBA. But good for him. Are you really trying? I would probably do that more so at a Michigan game when Ward Manuel is there than him. I mean, he's gone.
Right.
I mean, that's such a weird situation too, because even if he wanted to, I don't know. I don't know what the hell happened. All I know is it's a weird situation. Yes. I'm not going to go down that road.
By the way, you mentioned, he could have gone to Europe. I saw another one of his.
Shawnee Brown
going to France.
And good for him.
Yes.
I mean, you look at these guys that are fringe players, and we talked about it a lot with another former Michigan basketball player, in Hunter Dickinson, that you can go overseas and make yourself a damn good living. Drew Neitzel, who was with Michigan State, went overseas for years, made great money, came over, and could start his life. I mean, you give up 5 years of your life here for 5 years of money over there. I think it's a pretty damn good trade-off.
To being in the armed services where you might die. You can certainly do it for playing basketball.
And you go over there and you're a superhero. I mean, people love you. You're beloved. And it's cool to see. I mean, I root for kids locally, especially ones that like are from the state. And I mean, I know Xavier is from the city of Ohio, like he has on his bicep. Right. And Shawnee Brown is more of a Wake Forest guy. And that's always interesting to me as a college team, when they take pride in the guy that was there for 1 year and the school that he was there for 3 years.
So who's more of a Wake Forest guy, Shawnee Brown or Kenneth Walker?
They're the same dude, in my opinion. I mean, right? Like, Michigan State takes a lot of pride in Kenneth Walker, and you never see Wake Forest. Now, I also don't follow Wake Forest, so maybe they do. But, geez, you talk about transferring out. But, I mean, Wake Forest in basketball, to me, it's just Tim Duncan and name anybody
Chris
else.
Paul.
I mean, he's not Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan was everything there, man.
Oh, I know.
He was awesome. And he's got to be their greatest basketball player, right?
Wake Forest?
Yeah, period. Yeah. I mean, he's NBA Hall of Famer. He's won 4 rings. did great things there.
I mean, Chris Paul has to be second, I would think.
Absolutely.
They had what guy Randolph Childress played at Wake Forest.
He was wasn't he on that team with Tim Duncan? I'm pretty sure.
Probably.
The only reason I know this is because when I was a kid, I used to write to these schools to try to get team autograph pictures, and Wake Forest actually sent one back when I was a kid.
The Demon Deacons.
Yeah.
They hold a soft spot.
I would get all of their addresses. This was before the internet, so how I got those, I have no idea. But that was cool. Those were the good old days. Now, Stoney, I do want to ask this because I was reading more about Beef Stew's contract extension.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that he is still younger than like 5 dudes that were drafted in the first round this year? And I think that's why they gave him the money, because they believe and it's not that much money because he's going to be 26 at the end of that contract. And that's when he should really be peaking.
And they believe, and I see there's good reason, that he has gotten his game. He's not great, obviously, but his game has progressed incrementally over his 3 years.
Well, it's kind of like when we talked with like Larry Brown and we talk about Corliss Williamson, how that guy was such glue for that team. Mm-hmm. If you can get that kind of performance out of Isaiah Stewart, then you've hit a home run, and it's not that much money. Like, yes, $64 million. When you and I see it, we're like, holy crap, that is a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at Jalen Brown's contract and you're like, not that much money.
No.
So, I mean, Stoney, this summer, I mean, hopefully we get that select team start playing against, I don't even know what we call USA basketball. They're not the dream team anymore.
The schedule should come out shortly, too. We'll get into that.
And Duran's on it. What about Langston Galloway being on that select team?
I know.
So weird.
I know.
Former Piston.
Yes. By the way, something you barely touched on, maybe we'll get into next week. And it's the what if. What if they decided, the Saudis, to do a version of Live for basketball?
So I said this.
We'll talk about it next week.
Just real quick. I said it right off the rip when they did the Live thing with golf. I said, if you want to do it, basketball is the sport.
Yeah.
Because you will get the Kyries, the Durants, those kind of guys, in my opinion, that are looking for the big payday. All you need is 10 teams?
Yes. Well, one other thing we probably should mention, not that they listen, but if any family friends, speedy recovery for Bronny James.
Scary, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I remember Hank Gathers very, very well. Reggie Lewis. I mean, thankfully it didn't come to that, and hopefully he'll be okay. Forgetting about whether he'll be able to play again. That's a whole different.
Well, I thought Mike Feleni, that does a show on 97, won the ticket from 2 to 6 Monday through Friday, had a good point. Like, if you're LeBron, how do you let him keep playing, knowing that his life financially is set for life? And it was a good debate, because how do you tell a kid, because we don't know, if his dream was to, I want to be better than my dad one day. How do you rip a kid's dream away from him and tell him no if a doctor was to say, yes, you are healthy enough to do it? I mean, we saw it in the NFL with DeMar Hamlin, which was a way scarier situation. Yes, it was broadcast on national TV,
right?
But this guy's going out in the NFL right now, and still trying to perform.
Well, technically, because I believe he's over 18 years old, he can make that decision.
Sure, but it's just
his dad.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
His dad has been such a big influence, rightfully so, on his life, and he's been nothing more or nothing less than an unbelievable father to these young men and to his daughter. And you can't say that about a lot of professional athletes.
No, I would assume
it's scary though, isn't it?
Look at
Shaq's kid who had that same problem essentially at UCLA.
Yeah, with all the medical people that they have access to, which is probably the finest in the country. If he gets medically cleared to play, I would think LeBron would say, okay, you can play.
It's just so scary, isn't it? As a father, which you are.
If there's any type of question about it, there's 10%, it might happen again. Sorry.
Well, and it's like,
try coaching then.
Or go be a super agent. You know what I mean? Go
work for Maverick.
Yeah,
Uncle Mav will take care of you.
100%. There's so many people in his lives through his dad being one of the top 3 NBA players of all time, where yes, nepotism will take place a little bit, but at the same time, you think about a young man's health, right? And it's so scary, because I mean, luckily we don't have to see video of this, and if video does come out, I don't want to see it, because that DeMar Hamlin was so scary on national TV. But I mean, you're right. he's old enough. He's old enough to go to war and smoke cigs.
Yeah.
He should be able to dictate on whether or not he wants to control his life like that.
All right. Get into other stuff on the next edition next week. Enjoy your week. Thank you for listening to Restore the Floor.